Hello, Sandra.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you here in
My
Madeira.
pleasure.
Here in Madeira, there are a lot of digital nomads, and as I see, they are coming and coming. They keep coming from all over the globe. Yeah, there are some immigration rules, so how they can immigrate there or spend some time legally. So, could you tell us about this?
What actually would be wonderful if our government creates the digital nomad visa.
As a few countries did.
A few countries did, and that's what we are expecting. We were not very well known as a digital nomad hub, but at the moment, at least in Madeira, it's becoming internationally well known. And I think, and I know there is some pressure being done, and I hope, and I hope a digital nomad visa will be issued, because that would be the correct answer. But we have two kinds of people coming into Madeira. Not only, digital nomads, but remote workers. That is becoming, and after the pandemic, it's there to stay. So,
and I could say that post-pandemic nomads.
Post-pandemic nomads, exactly. So it increased. And so we do have people that are coming into Madeira and choosing Madeira to really live here a big part of the time, or if not all year round. They're enjoying to be here, and they are working remotely. And those will apply with a regular visa, like we've been working a lot, and especially the D7 we've been working, or that's the real answer to their immigration as an immigration program. But we also have the digital nomads that are coming for a few months, and they will be traveling all over the world, probably coming back for the
and not all of them can afford golden visa.
Exactly, the golden visa, and even the D7, because the D7 is becoming, I don't know if you know about that, we've been working a lot with the D7 program, and it's become, because there's a lot of demand. There's also our embassies and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs they require more proofs of income. So that means that not only do they have to prove that they have a regular income coming in, they should prove that they have some savings as well. And nowadays, even to start the process, and I'm now going back to the D7 program, it's important to have at least 1 year minimum salary in a Portuguese bank account when we start the process. It used to be on the second stage, so after getting the residency visa, then we would prove that there was some money being transferred to the Portuguese bank account. But nowadays, the requirements are getting tougher, and we need to meet all the requirements. And meaning, in terms of residency, we need to prove that actually there is a residency. We can work with rental agreements, loan agreements, but the rental have to exist when we start the process. And money has to be transferred to the Portuguese bank account, at least 1 year of minimum salary. In Portugal, the good news is it's 665 euros per month, so it's not very big, but it's still necessary to transfer that money. Meaning it's not for every digital nomad, and especially for those who are going to be here for just a few months. And that's why it's important but for now, what we have to offer is the immigration programs that we have in place, and D7 is one of them. Of course, during the pandemic, we didn't have any problem, and all these digital nomads that have been here in Madeira have been under, that the government extended the Schengen, the validation, if you want, in a legal way. So until the end of this year, there's no issue in terms of having specific permits or specific visas to be here. That was a solution during the pandemic. But after that, I think it's important to work on this digital nomad visa. I think the government should really think about that. Now is the time, and it's correct.
So what are the main requirements for the D7 visa they should follow?
Yes, the D7 visa is the visa that we've been working with remote workers. You know that D7 started as a passive income, and it was promoted like that. So many people that were working, they thought they couldn't apply through the D7, correct? Because it was not a passive but an active income. But then we started to work and using the D7 for active income. Meaning, what is important is to prove that there is some savings, as I said, so at least 1 year of the Portuguese minimum salary has to be transferred into a Portuguese bank account, and we need to prove that there is a bank account open in Portugal.
What amount?
That would be around 7,500.
For the family or for the...
Only for the main applicant. The spouse, when the spouse comes, we need to prove that 50% of that is also in the bank account, and for each child, 30%. Okay, so it depends on the family, how the family is structured.
In any bank?
In any Portuguese bank. Portuguese bank. So we need to prove in the Portuguese bank. That's why we always start, when we have clients, always start by that one, like creating tax number and opening the bank account as well, also for the D7 clients. So they need to prove that they have regular income, that they have some savings, that they have a residency. Nowadays we are working with rental agreements, for example, with the condition whereby those rental agreements will only be effective and in place if they get the authorization. But at least they can start the procedure and prove that they have a residency. We used to work with hotels, Airbnbs at this first stage, because as I said, the embassies are becoming more demanding. So we are now offering these kind of solutions so that they can start the process. It's important then to have a residency, to have an income. It's important to prove that that person will not be a burden to the Portuguese state.
And how much they should get as a passive or active income?
Well, the law doesn't say. The only law that we have is the minimum salary.
Says, yeah.
The minimum salary has to be. They have to prove
so
that they have.
So not less than 667.
665. Besides that, and that's how we always explain to clients. It's always good to, of course, to prove that your salary, or if there is a salary, if there is a self-employment, but a monthly average of at least that minimum salary. That's important to prove.
For how long period of time before you apply?
So when you start the application, we need to prove there is a salary or there is an income. There is an income. It can be passive.
Even rental income,
can be
dividends,
rental, salary, self-employment, whatever is the income, but with a regular basis. We need to prove that. And that income is one that has to be over the minimum Portuguese salary. That's important.
Which is not so big, yeah.
But besides that, at least this saving of 1 year Portuguese minimum salary should be there and should be transferred to the Portuguese bank account. These are the two bigger conditions, I would say, to start the process, and of course, a residency. Because we have many clients that are working for companies, international companies, and many are from US, it's becoming more and more trendy. It's important to prove that there is a declaration from the employer, the entity, so just a declaration stating that it's possible for that worker to work remotely. Only that. We only need that, okay? So that because we need to prove that. That's why that person is being, traveling and working here in Portugal. And speaking of US, you know that there is I don't know if you know, US has a very interesting tax. I would say the only exception for US citizens, for example, is when you go and work abroad and you become a tax resident outside US, you have a credit in US. It's around $105,000.
Yeah. You should declare, but
you should declare, but you have. And if that person applies for the NHR, non-habitual tax regime in Portugal, if it's done correctly, and if there is some kind of withholding tax at source, at the origin, even if it's a very low tax paid at source, it's possible not to pay anything in Portugal. So I think that's a very interesting window, tax-wise.
Not only for Americans, but for the French people, for Germans.
But I said US because it's combining these two regimes, combining the US regime and our regime. So that becomes quite interesting, even tax-wise, I would say.
And you've mentioned that it becomes trendy, so demand is very high in the United States.
Oh yes, we've been working.
Why do you think why?
First of all, political reasons, reasons, for sure, and before COVID. Political reasons. We had many people that I was amazed because at first there were more expats living in US, but then it became, we had a lot of US clients, US citizens wanting to leave and to go out The main reason was a political reason, and they were not really. They don't believe it will come back to what it was
And
for the
the
next
cost
few
of
years.
living as well.
Of course, the cost of living and the health insurance is another topic.
You know, when I used to live in United States, I paid something around $500 or $600 per person
Wow.
per month.
Per month.
And here I pay 68 or 74 euros, I don't remember exactly.
person?
Per person, yeah.
That's like-
so it's like a 10 times.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Only those savings are incredible.
And utilities and yeah, a lot of
everything else.
expenses. Yeah.
So, and you know that Portugal, there is, especially, we have a lot of clients from California,
Oh,
and the
especially
weather
California.
is so similar. They feel so comfortable, they feel welcome, and it's the way, I
But
think
tax is very
Portuguese-
different.
Yes. Yes, tax is very different. But it can be, I mean, if you know, using the non-habitual tax regime, it can be with a combination of different factors, it can be very appealing for Americans. We are really, I mean, Americans, we have both following the golden visa route and the D7. I would say at the moment, it's more or less 50% for him. Yeah.
And how long does it take to get a D7 visa?
Well, when we start the application, you know that the government, as our government did an agreement with VFS, so a local agency that is now in many different countries. So there are some countries, and in the US, it's some states that we start the procedure at VFS office, and they will be at the liaison with our embassy or directly at the embassy. So when we have all the checklist and the way we work, we work with the checklist, we make sure that all the documents are there, and we get the appointment either at the VFS office or at the embassy. So when we start the process, it will take around 2 months, general way, to get the visa approved or not. But but when the visa is approved, then the applicant will have 3 months to get the visa stamped on his his or her
So he
passport.
should start this process remotely.
Always remotely.
Mhm.
The D7 is always remotely. Start remotely, get the visa, the residency visa stamped on your passport. The visa will be issued for 4 months, and during those 4 months, then it's important to fly to Portugal and
get a
to
residence
complete
permit.
and get a resident permit. We will get the appointment at the SEF, at the immigration, but nowadays the embassies are even getting appointments, which is wonderful, specifically during COVID times.
After they come, they get a residence permit
For 2 years.
for 2 years
Exactly.
and prolong it for 3
3 years. And then they have 2 renewals. There is 2 renewals, and each renewal is for 3 years. Of course, after 5 years, they will be entitled to apply for permanent residency and apply for citizenship as well.
Do they need to spend some period of time during the year in Portugal?
Yes, which is mandatory, and this applies to all immigration programs that are not the golden visa. The golden visa is the only exception because it's based on investment. That's minimum stays, holidays, as you know. But all the other programs are exactly the same. I know that the way it was promoted outside, maybe many people thought that only by being an entrepreneur, for example, would have access to, you know, to be in Portugal but be out of Portugal for professional reasons. But the fact is that the immigration law, there's no discrimination. I mean, it's for all other immigration programs. The minimum stay is 6 months. The good exception is that for professional reasons, it's always possible to travel and to be out of Portugal. So it's possible to be less time in Portugal. The importance is the main residency has to be in Portugal, but then it's possible to travel for professional reasons, and there is no time limit for that.
And
purpose.
is it risky? Is it risky in terms of getting next
The renewal?
residence permit? Yeah, to renew it.
What is important, as I said, is make sure for those, if it's a person that doesn't have family and has to be and professionally is working, you know, internationally, as long as there is a justification and, you know, for the traveling, it will be okay. And we need just to justify. That's what we need to do. I always explain to clients, if we're dealing with families and children, then the family and the children should be in Portugal, should be based in Portugal. That's advisable.
And what is the refusal rate in average?
Well, the refusal rate, I would say for us, no more than 10% of all that we've been doing, and we've been working with hundreds of applications. But the refusal rate that we had to deal with were always with the income. Some were the income because there were some difficulties proving the origin of the funds, etc. We have to be very aware of that. But lately has been the housing, the residency. Because as I said, we used to work initially with a hotel or Airbnb for the first phase. Now we need to prove that there is an actual residency, there is an agreement signed.
Which is not a problem for the digital nomads
exactly.
who come and want to spend some time here.
Because they will work with Airbnb is the one, and it is one and the correct one for digital nomads. So we need to find a kind of an agreement that proves, some kind of long-term relationship with Portugal. We only work for digital nomads with the D7 because it's the only way, that is available at the moment. But as I said, we expect at any moment that the government understands this concept and creates a specific visa for the digital.
But if this kind of people establish a company in Madeira with a 5% of corporate tax, employ themselves in this company, they can also get a D2 visa as well.
Yes.
So they can collect all the benefits.
You can always
and
combine
an HR
everything.
in some cases.
Yes,
yeah.
it's the same. So you, as an entrepreneur, which is a D2, what you need to prove is that you have a Portuguese company, and even if the company is based in the International Business Center of Madeira, it's a Portuguese company. So it's exactly the same. So it's possible to use and apply as an entrepreneur, yes.
So we can emphasize that there are a lot of opportunities to be combined.
Yes, correct.
In Madeira especially.
And in Madeira especially. And Madeira has even lower regular corporate tax than in mainland. And income, and the individual income, the taxes are also lower, but I'm talking of in a general way. Of course, all our clients apply for, those who are willing to live in Portugal, apply for the NHR, all of them, of course, because it's much more beneficial in terms, and I believe you already, you know about that very well.
So, yeah, Madeira supplies very nice opportunities into the world.
Yes, definitely. If you combine everything together, yes, because we have everything that exists in Portugal, plus what is typical that only exists in Madeira Island. Yes.
Okay, very nice conversation.